Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Alexander Trepelkov, and I am officer in charge of the Division for Sustainable Development Goals at the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. In that capacity, I have the honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the launch of the virtual innovation exhibit on the occasion of the 6th ECOSOC Multi-Stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology, and Innovation for the Sustainable Development Goals. I also invite you all to participate in the online poll you can see on the screen to help us collect information from the audience. Dear participants, since the first STI forum in 2016, UNDESA, in collaboration with the Global Innovation Exchange, has been initiating an annual call for innovations to seek practical and effective solutions from around the globe to address sustainable development through STI. Such innovations are incorporated into an online technology base called 2030 Connect of the United Nations Technology Facilitation Mechanism. The 2021 call sought innovations developed or adapted to address disruptions associated with COVID-19, while the 2020 call focused on innovations for transformative change. In response, a total of almost 1,000 applications were received during the 2 years. The focus of many proposed innovations has been on promoting resilience, well-being, and inclusion. These solutions will thus remain relevant beyond the pandemic as they promise to help accelerate progress towards the SDGs in this critical period of response and recovery. To open this session, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome to the floor His Excellency Mr. Munir Akram, President of the Economic and Social Council and permanent representative of Pakistan to the United Nations. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Trepla, and thank you for opening and holding this exhibition. Excellencies, innovators, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Over the past year, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused immense suffering, reversing hard-won progress on many of the Sustainable Development Goals. It has caused significant rise in extreme poverty and resulted in the loss of jobs, lives, and livelihoods. The world economy has significantly contracted. There is still little sign of recovery in the developing countries, and they will find it difficult to recover unless and until the COVID-19 vaccines are urgently and equitably made available to everyone, everywhere. Significantly, it is only science, technology, and innovation that have provided a ray of hope in the form of the vaccine development and the continuity of business through digital technologies. This is a reminder of how vital science and technology and innovation are to the survival and the progress of mankind. This is a moment to recognize and applaud the innovative spirit and the entrepreneurship that are central to advancing the achievement of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. We see today the real-life impacts of innovations in accelerating sustainable solutions to our challenges of ending poverty, of expanding prosperity, and better conditions of life in larger freedoms, as the Charter says. In the current crisis, states and communities have leveraged the power of science, technology and innovation to fight the devastation of the pandemic through new ways of coping, working, learning, accessing services, and maintaining social connectivity. Many of these solutions, conceived and implemented during this crisis, will be valuable even when we emerge from the pandemic. Each innovator featured here today has developed or adapted a cutting-edge innovation to sustain and accelerate SDG progress despite the COVID-19 disruptions. This will remain relevant beyond the pandemic to help accelerate progress towards one or more of the SDGs. Let us learn from them and explore ways in which we can help scale up their products and spread the word to a wider global audience. The exhibit itself represents the multi-stakeholder spirit of collaboration, which is at the heart of the UN technology facilitation mechanism. I appreciate the teamwork by UNDESA, the Global Innovation Exchange, and the Secretary General's 10-member group that has made this exhibit possible. I also congratulate the innovators presented here, not just for their success in this global competition, but also for demonstrating that thinking local is vital for impacting global. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your thoughtful and inspiring remarks. Now I am pleased to invite to the floor Ambassador Muhammad Koba, Chargé d'Affaires of the Indonesian Mission to the United Nations and co-chair of the 2021 STI Forum. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And welcome to the virtual innovation exhibit, showcasing the winners of the 2020 and 2021 STI Forum calls for innovation. This year's competition was about innovation catalyzed by COVID-19 for the SDG impact, while last year call was focused on innovation for transformative change. Although received over different years, the innovation actually complement and support each other. Almost 1,000 applications were received. And over the next 2 days, we are privileged to host the presentation of 25 winners. Distinguished innovators participants, the COVID-19 pandemic in almost overnight has completely transformed the global landscape. It continues to claim life in the millions, destroys livelihoods, pushes economies into recession, and leaves many isolated. Inequalities have also worsened. It is natural to ask, when faced with these tragedies, how are we going to recover and whether we can still attain the SDGs? The innovators joining us today are providing some of the answers. Their bright and practical ideas have changed the ways in which we approach long-standing problems such as hunger, gender inequality, and environmental sustainability. Their innovation have already helped in coping with the pandemic and also stand to establish long-term acceleration toward the SDGs. They work in areas such as food systems, vulnerable communities, education, environment, and maternal, newborn, and child health. You will also have a chance to engage with them in depth. Distinguished participants, our upcoming panel this morning discusses innovation in food systems. Even before the pandemic, global hunger was already on the rise. The pandemic has made things worse, increasing acute food security by 82% in 2020. This had disproportionate impacts on vulnerable groups. At the same time, long-term solutions must balance trade-offs across the entire food system so that good nutrition for all is achieved while limiting adverse environmental impacts. The winning initiative enrich crops, develop nutritious, ready-to-eat cereal, expand opportunities for rural smallholders farmers, and eliminate supply chains inefficiencies using data. I look forward to hearing more about the innovation ecosystem this morning and to engaging with other innovators panel later today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your opening remarks. Dear participants, over the next 2 days, this event will showcase the 25 winning solutions from both years in 5 development areas, such as food systems, vulnerable communities, education, maternal, child and newborn health, and environment. The 6 panel discussions will feature presentations by innovators who will explain their cut-edge initiatives and share insights from their experiences in developing and implementing effective solutions in the current context. We are delighted to be joined today by so many participants from across the world, and your engagement is a tribute to the vital importance of this work. We count on your support in disseminating, promoting, and implementing innovations for the SDGs. On this optimistic note, it is now my pleasure to pass the floor to Ms. Sweta Govani, lead for the Global Innovation Exchange at Results for Development. Sweta, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, and welcome everybody to the virtual innovation exhibit. And thank you to all the speakers this morning. And also a huge thank you to UNDESA for the continued partnership over the last several years with Global Innovation Exchange and R4D. So as many of the speakers have mentioned, this panel series includes 6 panels under a unifying theme of innovations catalyzed by COVID-19. What do we mean by that? So we've seen that the pandemic continues to reveal new and worsening systemic issues that may not only slow down, but could reverse progress towards the SDGs. And as shown here, the panelists across the 6 panels will include these 25 innovations across 5 themes: the environment, food systems, education, maternal, newborn, and child health, and vulnerable communities. Today, I should add that these innovations were selected because they showed the potential to address many of these systemic issues during and especially well beyond the pandemic. We hope you will be able to join us for many of the 6 panels across today and tomorrow. And in each panel, moderated by a thematic expert, you will hear from 3 to 5 innovators who will share their own expertise and experience from developing and scaling up innovations across 34 different countries. You'll notice that education has 2 panels because we had 6 total innovators that were selected over the 2 years. And in each panel, you'll also hear from them about how the pandemic impacted the innovations. So for example, some of them pivoted to address one of the many indirect impacts of COVID-19, others scaled their innovations to new countries, and all of them, like all of us, grappled with the new reality resulting from the changes due to the pandemic, such as remote work or shifting stakeholder priorities. There were nearly 1,500 registrations for this series, so we're really excited for many of you to join us across the 2 sessions. And this morning, we saw that there were almost 100 already joining, and it looked like there were the most attendees from Africa this morning. So continue to respond to the polls that we have throughout the series, and we look forward to your interaction in the Q&A. And with that, in order to kick off the first panel, it is my pleasure to hand it off to Augustin Flory, the Senior Fellow at Results for Development and our moderator for the first panel on food systems innovation.
Thank you very much, Sweta. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here. And welcome everyone to the first panel of this virtual exhibit on food systems and innovations, hosted by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs in partnership with the Global Innovation Exchange. As Sweta mentioned, my name is Augustin Flory. I'm a senior fellow at Results for Development and an independent consultant on policy and financing issues in the areas of food systems, nutrition, and global health. And it's a real pleasure to be here today. As we've heard earlier, innovations are essential for improving and strengthening systems and achieving the ambitions of the SDGs. And this is particularly true for innovations in food systems, which are connected to most of the SDGs. And food systems are in the spotlight this year with the September Global Food Systems Summit. There's a growing realization that our food systems are failing consumers with continued unacceptable, if not growing, levels of malnutrition, including hidden hunger, overweight, and obesity across the world. And a whole lot of new challenges caused by COVID-19, as mentioned by Ambassador Koba. Food systems are also failing our planet. They are a leading emitter of greenhouse gases and a leading contributor of environmental degradation, while in return being deeply challenged by climate change. And our food systems are also more often than not failing farmers who struggle to make ends meet and adapt. So a deep and urgent transformation is needed for food systems to become more nutritious, more environmentally sustainable, and more equitable economically. And this requires significant innovations across the whole systems. We have 4 amazing panelists today who will talk about the innovations that won the 2020 and 2021 STI Forum Call for Innovations in the food systems category and aim to change different parts of their food systems. And so these innovators are Emeka Nwachinemere, the CEO of Kitovu Technology Company, Ekin Birol, the Director of Impact and Strategy Biofortification at Harvest Plus, which is a CGIAR program, Adepeju Jayeoba, the CEO of Colorful Giggles Nutrition, and last but not least, Ekanikpong Ben, the CEO of Alcanis and Partners. So before we start hearing from our panelists, a few notes about interaction for this panel. This panel starts with a series of questions asked to each panelist and will be followed by a brief Q&A. Throughout the panel, we welcome you to interact with us by posting relevant questions for our panelists in the Q&A box to the right of your screen, as you can see on the slide, which is projected right now. I will ask our panelists a subset of these questions during the Q&A portion of the panel. When posting your question, you will be prompted to add your name. Please also add your organization if you would like. You can also like and respond to questions and comments that others post. Please be respectful and note that any questions that are not appropriate or not directly relevant to the dialogue and or not in line with the UN Charter will be deleted. And so on this note, and without further ado, and to start us off, let's hear from each of our panelists. And so I will ask each of you to tell us, what is your innovation? What are the key challenges in food systems that your innovation addresses, and how your innovation addresses those challenges and contributes to changing food system? And let's start with Emeka, please. Emeka, the floor is yours. Emeka?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I think my video is disabled.
Are you able to enable it?
No, the host. Okay, yes, now I can. Okay, thank you very much for that warm introduction, Mr. Augustine. My name is Munir. I'm CEO and founder of Keynote technology company. We are an agtech company based in Nigeria, and we are working to transform African agriculture. Now, to start off the discussions, I would say that most parents are likely very familiar with how frustrating it can be when you are nursing a child and you are struggling to understand why the baby is yelling. You're trying to figure out what does the baby want, what can you do? And then you have to rely on guesswork, essentially. Is the baby wet? Is the baby hungry? So you try several things and eventually you find something that works. But you agree that it's not usually the most efficient way of solving problems. And most of us wish that there was a way we could tell when babies were babies needed anything needed. But as it happens, it's not just parents that are caught up with trying to, rely on guesswork to find out how to do things. In most of sub-Saharan Africa, most smallholder farmers rely on guesswork for everything they do. They rely on guesswork for selecting the seeds they plant, the inputs they use, the fertilizers, how they apply it. Everything is totally as a result of guesswork. So it's not really surprising when you see that sub-Saharan Africa has the lowest yields in terms of global averages. They have one of the lowest in the world. And then if you distill on the data further, you see that smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa make up 75% of all people who live under $1. And it is this sort of challenge, this sort of problems that pushed us to start Keynote technology company. What Keynote does is leverage data science and remote sensing to provide smallholder farmers with precise inputs, soil and crop health insights, and linkages to the people who need their products. So essentially, we realize that crops and the soil is always talking to us. And we built a platform that tries to make sense of what the crop and the soil is saying to farmers per time. And we then present it to them in ways they will understand what they should grow, how they should apply the fertilizers, who needs what they are growing, so that at the end of the day, they not only are able to grow productively, but they have a captive market for what they've produced. To date, we have enabled over 7,000 smallholder farmers to be able to cut down their input costs by 30%, double their yields, and achieve 100% sales of their produce, because they are not just producing randomly, they are producing with data. They are producing the understanding that what they are producing, there's someone who has a demand for it. But we've barely just started, and it is our vision that we'll continue to build, to innovate and scale until we are able to build a global food future by helping transform African farmers, one smallholder farmer at a time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emeka. A platform that replaces guesswork by scientific insight. I mean, that sounds really transformative and amazing. Let's move next to Ekin. The floor is to you.
Thank you, Augustine. Can you hear me? Great, thank you. So our innovation is called biofortification. It's a big name for a simple idea and a small change for potentially very big impact. Biofortification uses non-GMO plant breeding to improve the vitamin and mineral content of key staples everybody eats every day, everywhere. Co-developed by the CGIAR national breeding programs and farmers themselves, 12 biofortified staples are now available for production and consumption in 40 countries in the global south. Biofortified staples such as zinc rice, vitamin A corn, iron beans can not only provide from 25% to 100% of vitamin or mineral needs, they're also bred to be high yielding and climate smart, and hence contributing to food security alongside nutrition security. So 3 billion people globally cannot afford a healthy, nutritious diet, and 2 billion people suffer from micronutrient malnutrition. And these are the pre-pandemic estimates. Regular consumption of biofortified staples is proven to reverse micronutrient deficiencies, improve immune systems, and improve various health outcomes related to hidden hunger, and to do so cost effectively and with minimum change in habits. Biofortification is by no means a silver bullet, but it is a golden opportunity to improve the quality of diets for all. A backbone of any food system is the staple food, whether it is tortilla made out of corn, chapati made out of wheat, a gari made out of cassava, or humble bowl of steamed rice. Biofortification improves food systems through staples. That's through the backbones of the food system, the main player on the plate. So as I said, it's a big name for a simple idea with potentially big impact. Thank you, Augustin.
Thank you, Akin. If I keep one thing, is kind of supercharging the backbone of food system with vitamins and nutrients. This is amazing. Let's move next to Adepeju.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone. So today I'm here to talk to you about Colorful Giggles Nutrition, and what we do at Colorful Giggles is we are a natural baby food company that makes ready-to-eat instant food for children under the age of 5. Our food makes use of 100% local ingredients, and we try to help mothers fight malnutrition as well as hidden hunger for their children. Colorful Giggles Nutrition is a food that is made out of love. It is a food that is made in love. It is a food that aims to ensure that every child, no matter their location and no matter the economic status of their parents, are able to get a giggle. So we are focused on ensuring that every child has or deserves a giggle. The way our cereals work is that we partner with farmers, local farmers across different communities. Many of them are also our customers. Many of them also act as our agents across different rural communities. They supply us all their raw materials, and then we go into full production, having our 6 variants, which is basically a constituent of grains, fruits, and vegetables. We make sure that we have different variants for all children so that they're able to have taste exploration. All our food are contains 16 vitamins and minerals to WHO standard. Again, if there's anything I want you to remember throughout this panel, it is the fact that we made this food to ensure that every child, no matter their location, no matter the economic status of their parents, is able to attain that potential because they are able to get a giggle. Fighting malnutrition and hidden hunger is our #1 goal, and with your support, we'll definitely achieve that. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you so much, Adepeju. All of us who are parents or have been parents or will be parents, kind of are thinking about how to get the best food for our children, and finding healthy food which is affordable and which is as you said, made with love is an amazing innovation. It's hard to find. Thank you so much. Moving now to Ekanik Pong, the floor is yours.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our participants from all over the world. I once again welcome you to Food Systems Innovation. I hope it's been already an interesting session listening to all speakers exhibiting their wonderful and cutting-edge solutions. But what Elcanis does is see how to support farmers that produces for our sister Adepoju and also for Emeka, then also Harvest Plus, the biofortified, creating a platform that will take these biofortified seedlings to farmers in the rural areas, and also of taking from farmers from the rural areas to the urban and to all those that have need of food. So my name is Zekani Bombe, and I'm the founder of Elcanis and Partners. Elcanis is a leading provider of technical and digital solutions for the agricultural sector in Nigeria. Livestock and crop farmers are mostly faced with shortage of inputs, feeds, drugs, fertilizer, improved seeds and seedlings, just like what Harvest Plus is doing with biofortified, credit, and inability to access market to sell their crops and produce. This was made worse during COVID-19, as most of those farmers were unable to access markets. They were unable to access their inputs, access seedlings, access fertilizer, and livestock feed for their livestock. This impacted millions of farmers who were not spared as they washed their livestock and starved to death. Their livestock were starved to death, and the harvested crops were left wasted because they were unable to take what they harvested to the market. And they were also unable to get improved seedlings to go on with the cycle, the farming cycle. This actually put vulnerable children and households' food security and nutrition at risk. You know, a lot of people that depended on these farmers were unable to get food to eat. Children were unable to get food to eat, and also other households were left at risk. Amidst this, there was good hope. Over 10,000 farmers who uses FarmX and Elcanis vernacular interactive voice response platform were still able to connect with their input suppliers. They were still able to contact their veterinary doctors. They were still able to connect with their extension agents. They were still able to network with their customers while leveraging on our agro e-commerce to access point of sale for their produce. Now, how does this work? It's like a local LinkedIn for farmers. It's a platform that connects farmers to service providers and service providers to farmers, and also has an e-commerce platform where farmers were able to sell their produce. Farmers using our platforms are able to connect with their stakeholders and increase their yield, which brings mutual value and gains to the food supply chain. You know, there's this mutual value and gains that supports everybody, the livestock, the feed sellers, the live input suppliers, they're able to sell to farmers. Farmers were able to buy. Farmers were also able to sell to consumers, which made the chain. It made the chain completely complete. So FarmX is a food supply chain bridge that connects farmers to larger marketplace. We also have that which works on the local dialect. It is called the Elcanis vernacular interactive voice response platform. If you call it, if a farmer calls a particular number, it connects to a service provider, connects to an extension service agent, connects to a food vendor. It supports farming, support the whole supply chain, food supply chain to keep on rolling. So that is our presentation, that is our innovation. Thank you. Over to you, Augustine.
Thank you very much, Aganik Pong, and kind of bringing digital and e-commerce solutions to Nigerian farmers and connecting them to markets is, you know, something which definitely sounds very transformational. So, you know, we all have our business plans as innovators and entrepreneurs, and then the unexpected happened. And, you know, last year, COVID-19 struck the whole world and created a lot of challenges for everyone. And so for the second round of question, I would like to know how the pandemic did affect your innovation or your company. You know, did it accelerate, halt, or redirect your progress? Did it open up new opportunities? For instance, funding opportunities, partnerships, new ways of implementing solution that you believe maintained or replicated in the long term? And what challenges did it create for your innovation, and how did you pivot or overcome them? Let's follow the same order, and so start with Emeka.
Thank you very much, Augustine. I think it was Mike Tyson that said that every boxer has a plan until he gets punched in the face. Before the pandemic, we sort of had things figured out. We offered our services as a bundled offering. So we didn't just offer a digital only service. To access our digital services like the plant health analysis, like fertilizer recommendation or water stress analysis, you essentially had to use our inputs. So that meant that to an extent, we relied on commission-based agents, and that meant we had to put boots on ground. When the pandemic hit, it impacted us very, very seriously. Also, most of our engagement in terms of the marketplace was entirely B2B. So we had organizations that closed down temporarily. We had difficulties in moving inputs. And more importantly, we run because most of the farmers we support have very, very low purchasing power. So we relied on farmer-based organizations who provide input financing to these farmers for them to be able to afford the quality inputs and use our service. But when the pandemic hit, two key things happened. Some of the farmer-based organizations didn't double down on the agreements. So input financing was limited for us. So it was difficult for us to retain most of our farmer users. In addition, some of the commodities that would have ordinarily moved to our B2B partners were left on hold. So we didn't know what to do. Eventually, we started attacking the problem. First thing we did was to build a direct-to-consumer delivery platform. We tried to move everything the farmers, both farmers we already had and other farmers, what they produced, to do contactless delivery of foodstuff, and that kept us going, kept the place running, and we didn't have to shut down. But it also forced us to, look inwards and start rethinking our entire business model. First thing we did was to unbundle our services. So right now, anyone anywhere in the world can access our plant health analysis services, or the the fertilizer recommendation, or water stress analysis without having to purchase inputs on us, or without the need for us to have boots on ground. We followed up on that. We used the plant health analysis to launch an e-extension service, which was very much in demand during the period. And then we continued to, innovate, build out our platform, and prepare.
Thank you very much, Emeka. We have a short amount of time, so could I ask you to wrap up your point so that we can let other speakers speak as well? Thank you so much.
Yes, I was going to wrap up by saying that the pandemic was quite tough on us, our business, but it probably also saved us too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emeka. What a story of resilience and adaptability. Ekin, over to you. And please keep your answers brief so that we can get to the next question and some Q&A.
Absolutely. So the pandemic shone a light on three important issues. One, the relationship between healthy diets and strong immune systems. Two, disruptions to longer supply chains, for example, for healthy food, nutritious foods like meat, vegetables, fruits, which made these nutritious foods even less accessible and more expensive. And three, falling incomes, especially of the most vulnerable, which means increasing reliance on cheap staple foods to fill tummies. So biofortification came into light as a solution that can improve the nutritional content of food, and to do so locally and affordably. We made three pivots to tackle the effects of the pandemic. First, we pivoted our delivery models to leverage even more intentionally on our partners on the ground, whether it is community level stem multipliers for vitamin A cassava in the DR Congo, or private seed companies for iron millet in India. Second, we accelerated our transition to digital technology, and Ekanic Pong gave an excellent example of how we're using e-commerce to link value chain actors. In addition to that, we switched to more nimble phone data collection to monitor the program progress and bottlenecks. And we used virtual platforms for trainings and demand creation. One example of a partnership we formed during this time is with Precision Agriculture for Development. Together, we use SMS to create demand for zinc wheat seed in Pakistan. And third, we actively sought for opportunities to incorporate biofortified seeds and foods in COVID response and relief programs, such as including zinc rice among government's farm input delivery efforts in Bangladesh, delivering nutritious biofortified meals to high-risk groups such as pregnant teenagers and women with HIV/AIDS in Malawi. As a result of Harvest Plus delivery efforts in 2020, an estimated 10 million farming households were growing biofortified crops, and 50 million people in these households were consuming biofortified foods. That's across 18 countries in Latin America, Asia, and Africa.
Thank you so much, Akin.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's keep moving. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. Let's move to Adepeju.
Thank you very much, Augustine. So the pandemic actually accelerated growth for my business. So at the beginning of the pandemic, Nigeria, of course, before the pandemic, imports about 80% of its baby food. And so when the pandemic came on, the sea, the air, and the land borders were all shut. The people who had imported baby food actually, increased the prices to like ×3 or double the prices, making it effectively out of reach for so many women and their children. I've been working in the field of maternal and child health for about 11 years. So going into communities during the pandemic to distribute COVID relief kits to mothers also opened my eyes, seeing children, not thriving effectively. Government concentration on distributing palliatives, not focused on children or food specific to children, was also an issue. Plus, I had 2 boys under the age of 4 at that time. So this was a real concern for me. And so I started talking to some of the mothers who were also farmers in the communities as I went there to distribute COVID relief kits. And they started giving me raw materials to go and sample in my house. And that's how this started. So I did some random sampling, mixed up different ingredients, used my 2 boys, sat them down and started feeding them, to see how it was like, what was working and what was not working. And when I felt that we've gotten to a point where these children are beginning to enjoy this yummy meal, I decided to start giving it back to the mothers who were supplying me raw materials to feed their children all during the pandemic. And my husband looked at me and said, who starts a business during the pandemic? Of course, me. I started a business during the pandemic. And so we moved on, to getting regulatory approval. Again, you look at who gets regulatory approval during the pandemic. Well, I do. I get regulatory approvals during the pandemic. I rent office spaces during the pandemic, and I set up a whole production line during the pandemic. To me, when it comes to mothers and children, my passion knows no bound. And for me, every child must be alive. To live is our potential. They must have that chance to strive and stay alive. And we do that by effectively ensuring that every child gets a giggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Adepeju. Very inspiring story. Ekanik Pong, you have the floor. Please stay concise.
All right, thank you. During COVID, I think it was a learning session for us, and also a time for us to optimize our efficiency since we're already on the e-commerce platform, connecting farmers to service providers and vice versa. So farmers were unable to access seeds, just like I said earlier, but through our platform and thanks to the state government, we're given access to deliver inputs to farmers at their doorstep, which helped us and also supported farmers to stay in business. Amidst that, the government also supported farmers by contracting us to build a platform, Farmers Information and Enterprise Management System, a digital platform that profiled over 300,000 farmers. And all these farmers were able to reach out, government were able to reach out to some of them. Government were also able to give them in awards palliative to support them with input and seedlings to keep them in business. So during COVID, we learned a lot. It came to test our business model, and we also knew that it's e-commerce that is the end thing now, which is actually what we are doing. So presently our platforms are all on Google Play Store. You can check Farm X Shop, that is the e-commerce. From Farm X Shop, that's the e-commerce on the Play Store. Then the Farm X is a marketplace for farmers. Then we also have a particular number that farmers dial for the interactive voice response that connect farmers, mostly those in the rural areas, to service providers. Basically, that's what we did during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Akram. And you know, I'm struck by the stories of adaptation, of innovation on your innovations. So each new challenge requires innovation. For some of you, the pandemic accelerated growth, which is amazing. The stories of optimization of efficiency, learning, testing. This is the spirit of innovators, right? To kind of keep rebounding and whenever a new challenge is thrown in your way. So we're running a little late, so I would like each of you to be even more concise for that next question, kind of in 1 minute each. I think we want to look beyond the pandemic, look at what's next for your work, and I think most importantly for this panel discussion and for the audience, kind of what support do you need? Be specific. Are there technical inputs, connections, partnerships, resources that you need to accelerate your impact on food systems? And so I will start in a different order now, since we followed the same order twice, and we'll start now with Ekin. Ekin, can you tell us, what do you need to go to the next stage?
Absolutely. So as I said, 50 million people globally are consuming biofortified foods now, but that's not enough. We want it to be 1 billion by 2030. We want to biofortify the food systems so that they are resilient to future shocks, whether related to climate change or another pandemic. As Harvest Plus, we have 3 catalytic efforts in order to take biofortification to scale. One, we're working with the international and national breeding programs and the private seed sector to encourage mainstreaming of micronutrient content as a non-negotiable trait. So not just breed for high yield or climate smartness, but also breed for better nutrition. 2, we're reaching out to regional bodies and national governments with cost-benefit analysis and roadmaps to help them include biofortified crops and foods in their policies and programs, whether in nutrition or agriculture or health or rural development. And 3, we are working along the value chain, all the way from seed producers to consumers, to raise awareness, engender demand, and link value chain actors so we can biofortify the food system so everyone can have a chance to improve their food through the backbone of their plate. What we are looking for is, this year, as you mentioned, Augustine, is nutrition and food systems are high on the global agenda with Nutrition for Growth and UN Food Systems Summit. We hope to see biofortification included among game-changing innovations. Stakeholders will be committed to scaling, and we encourage them to contact us. And this recognition by the UN couldn't have come at a better time to shed a spotlight on biofortification and what it can do. So thank you.
Thank you, Ekin. Ekin, what do you need to achieve your next level of growth?
Okay, we need more of resources and partnerships. So far, we have over 30 million farmers in Nigeria, that's documented, and we've been able to capture just 300,000 on our database, and we are presently impacting less than 100,000. So we need more of partnerships, we need more of resources. The partnership, what are they going to do to support the platform, to support more farmers, not just giving them money or grants, creating input financing for farmers to be able to optimize what they are doing. So it's going to be an investment, investing in these farmers so as to create food sufficiency and eliminate food insecurity in Nigeria and perhaps sub-Sahara. So mostly partnerships and resources to scale our platform and support more farmers, so to ensure food security for the continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I invite our audience to take note, and we will put the emails of the innovators and the companies back on the screen at the end of this session. Please feel free to reach out to them if you feel that there is a partnership opportunity. Let's move next to Colorful Giggles and Adepeju. What do you need to achieve your next level of growth?
So for us, we need 2 things mainly. We need resources to help us automate all our processes. Some are semi-automated at the moment. And then we need technical assistance to help us continue to build our supply chain lines as we try to effectively reach the last mile. We want to ensure that every child truly that deserves a giggle, gets a giggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Adepeju. Emeka, last but not least, what do you need?
Thank you, Augustine. At Kitovu, we truly believe that Africa is the go-to place if we must feed the world. Yeah. So our sights are set on Africa beyond the pandemic. And to prepare for that, we've rebuilt our platform. It's now available in French and Urdu. We are looking to incorporate different service providers like truck, tractors, spraying, storage services, even financing, so that we can be able to provide farmers with an end-to-end solution. To be able to deliver on this, however, we are looking out for partnerships across board, partnerships with processors in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, partnerships with agribusinesses, and partnerships with finance-focused organizations that can work with us to extend input financing to smallholder farmers. We believe that every farmer deserves the tools to increase productivity and cut down on post-harvest losses by having direct linkages to those who buy their products. And we believe that with your support, we'll be able to achieve just that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is really, really inspiring, and I hope that some members of the audience will hear your calls for partnerships, TA, financing, and respond to those. We have quite a few questions in the Q&A. Let's start maybe with one to all of you. Which surprising and catalytic partnerships with funders, country government, UN agencies, or others did you develop during the pandemic, and how? So you don't have to answer, but if you've struck one of those kind of unusual, surprising, and catalytic partnership, can you tell us about it, please? Anyone wants to go first? Ekin, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this period really made us think outside the box of whom we can partner with to reach as many people as possible. One of them is we started talking to Akshaya Patra, who's now delivering school feeding programs through happiness boxes. We started talking to them to see if we can include biofortified seed in the happiness boxes that children in India, they take home because they cannot go to school anymore. That's one example. And the other example I'd say is we've been talking to more increasingly with World Food Program to see if we can incorporate biofortification and link producers of biofortified crops with World Food Program for them to procure, so that the food delivered is not only filling the tummies, but also providing the nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you, Ekin. Anyone else wants to talk about an unusual partnership?
All right, I go second. Partnership was mostly with the state government, that's Akwa Ibom State Government of Nigeria. Just like I mentioned earlier, with the Farmers Information and Enterprise Management System, we're able to partner with governments to profile and onboard over 300,000 farmers. The database is present. You can check it online, films.elkanisgroup.com. That's where the website is. So we also partner with the Ministry of Agriculture to reach out to farmers. We had trainings for farmers on how to be resilient during outbreaks like this. For the international, we also speaking with the Harvest Plus. We've had a partnership with CIGA and also been having correspondence with World Food Program and other international development agencies. The correspondence is on, but we believe all will come out well, so as to see how to solidify all our aims and objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ekanipong. If no one else wants to take the floor on this, let's maybe move on to a question, which I think is maybe, let's start with Emeka. How does infrastructure or the lack thereof affect rural farmers And how can technology solutions address infrastructure gaps, and what challenges remain?
Okay, that's a very, very thoughtful question. First of all, there are no one-size-fits-all solution that suddenly solves every problem. And infrastructure gaps is a huge one. First, in the area of climate change, last year we had a lot of farmers that lost their farms because they planted and it didn't rain. So when you see issues around lack of irrigation equipment, it's a very, very endemic problem. Then we also have challenges around storage. Storage is very, very lacking. So as a result of that, farmers are pressed to sell immediately after they produce, and that puts them at a back foot. Now, in terms of what technology can do with addressing these challenges, I think the starting point is data. Data is very, very important to understand where are the farmers, how many farmers are there, what locations are there, so that it can help stakeholders make informed decisions as to where to place different kinds of infrastructure which is needed. Also, one other challenge, especially that makes it difficult to scale digital solutions, is that there is very, very limited connectivity in most of the productive areas. And one of the things we did to address that is that we built our platforms to be able to collect data without the need for internet. But then when you are in a location where there is internet, it updates every data to a secure database. So I think
Thank you.
User-centered design is going to be very, very important in designing technology solutions for people who live in these locations, not just slapping any technology, but take into account where the people, the users are, and how your solution affects them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we wrap up, I would like to ask one last question, and maybe start with Adepeju, about the role that gender plays in food systems and nutrition. And the audience member asked, are men and women affected differently? What are other dimensions of inequality in nutrition? And Adepeju, given that you are a female entrepreneur targeting mothers and baby food, I'm sure you have strong views about this. The floor is yours.
Yes, I do have strong views about this, Augustine. I wouldn't even lie. So the truth is that I do not think, and my experience has shown that it's not, women and men are differently affected by the pandemic. That's just the truth. Even in a normal setting, in terms of food security, look at the value chain, the farmers, to the processors, to the producers, to the retailers, to the distributors. A lot of time, many of them, more than 50% of them are actually women. The traders, the people you find in the market, the people who buy, the people who sell, the people who cook the meal, the people who dish out the meal, who serve the meal. It's only the consumer that is different. That's when you see the men, they are like the main consumers. I mean, apologies to all men listening, but it's the truth. Women and men are differently affected. In my work during the pandemic, when I was working across different communities, what I saw was, what drove me to really start this was the pain in the faces of the mothers as they talk, as they show me all the palliatives that they have received from government and nothing for their children, and even in a normal setting, when you, for instance, if you serve a meal in Nigeria or in many parts of Africa, if there are only 2 pieces of meat left in the meal, the head of the family, who is the man, will get that 1 piece of meat. And then if you have 5 children, they're going to have to share the remaining 1 pieces of meat amongst themselves. Who needs the nutrition most? Is it the man who is already old, or the child under 5 whose brain is still developing, who needs micronutrients to be able to build their body immunity? So again, I've told you, Augustine, I'm very, very passionate about this question. I mean, that you have asked me. I have very strong views about it. We can go on till tomorrow on it.
Adepeju, I knew you were going to fire up the audience, in the last minute. We are unfortunately at time, and I wish we could continue this panel longer. But I want to thank you all, Adepeju, Ben, Ekin, Emeka, for sharing your experiences, your insights, your challenges, and your needs so generously with all of us. To our audience, again, feel free to reach out to them directly. Their email is on the screen. So you take a snapshot, a picture of it. And thank you to our audience for attending this panel, for your questions. Sorry, we could not answer all of them. I would like to remember the audience that the next panels, there are two more, I think at 12:30 p.m. EDT today. So you're really invited to join and listen to the other panels as well. And I think that concludes our session today. Bye for now, and hope to be in touch soon in a different setting.